Ladies and gentlemen, you're very welcome. Post-match carnage, Bayern Munich 4, Liverpool 3. We're here to discuss that and so much more. Of course, I need people to talk to. Otherwise, I'd go mad. Madder than mad. If I didn't have people to talk to. If I just sat there on my own, speaking to myself, going through all the pros and the cons, I'd go mad. You see the faces. They don't need the introduction. Evan's here. Hi, Evan.
Hello, Grizz. How are you?
I'm good. Today I don't know if you know, or you won't know unless you ask somebody, and you may have asked somebody in the UK. How's the weather? Today was one of the most rainiest days ever in the history of Augusts. No, July's.
August, bro.
Oh,
It's August 2nd, man.
Oh, sugar plum. It was the wettest day I can remember in July, and I can remember more than most people because I'm old, right? And I'm telling you now, it was wet. But you know me, the madman that I am, I was actually wearing shorts.
Start to pack up the shorts.
I was like, where is he going? Where is he going? He forgot to turn the oven off.
I was wearing shorts. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how that happened. I was wearing shorts. I ended up wearing shorts, and it was the rainiest day in the world. And Crocs, by the way. The latest craze for me is Crocs. I'm into Crocs.
Crocs are wonderful, Grizz. They're wonderful.
They're ugly though.
That's the point. It's the charm of them. You know what I mean?
What's the thinking behind that then?
Well, you know when something like when a joke is so stupid that it's funny. It's the same thing with Crocs. They're so ugly that they're rather attractive. So there you
Crocs are so ugly, so ugly, but they so do the job. Errol, how's your day? How you been? Do you wear Crocs?
I don't. My little boy wears Crocs. He's got a couple of pairs of Crocs. So he was sporting them yesterday, doing absolute madness. But yeah, all good, bro. And first and foremost, though, it's football. We talk football. I've got to big up. I have got to big up. You see this here? This bird here is the Jamaican bird, yeah?
Of course!
The Jamaica gal, them have just qualified and made history in the Women's World Cup. And for a nation as small as they are compared to all the others in the tournament, and they got a result against France, they got a result against Brazil, and then they got a win as well in the midst of all that. Big up the girls first and foremost before we get into obviously our domestic stuff. So best of luck for them in the knockouts. But it's just nice energy, nice vibe, and it's a great celebration when everybody's kind of now starting to get into the spirit of the competitiveness of the football. So yeah, all good, bro.
Amazing shout as usual, Errol. Wicked for that. Thank you very much. That was quite the result. And if I also shout out the Brazilian soccer player, what's her name? Magneta something, the one who retired, the legend.
Marta, okay. I believe.
Marta.
Yeah, okay.
Shout out her as well, because that is one hell of a career. But of course, big up the are they known as the Reggae Girls?
Yeah, they're known as the Reggae Girls on Twitter.
Yeah, known as the Reggae Girls. I don't want to get accused of like sort of, okay, the Reggae Boys, and just because the women are playing, they're the Reggae Girls.
Nah, man, they fully ran with it. It's part of the family.
I wouldn't be surprised if they put a little knockout run together, because all of the supposed favorites in the Women's World Cup so far have yet to hit the ground running. The US have looked shaky. Obviously, Germany lost, France lost. All these things. So.
Amazing.
The world is their oyster. They absolutely could put a run.
100%. Hey, big up our South African women too, history makers as well. Beat Italy, absolutely.
See,
absolutely.
It's the summer of upsets in the Women's World Cup. It's great,
absolutely.
Great viewing.
Big fan of your works, Evan. Big fan from Bangladesh. There you go.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Graphs,
Appreciate
your scattered graphs, your charts are going off the charts, I guess.
When I close my eyes at night to go to sleep, Grizz, all I see are dots in just various sizes, shapes, colors, and forms.
This is just the start, my brother. This is just the start. Let me tell you that for a fact.
The sleep only gets worse. Thank
you. Absolutely. Big up the smash, of course, Bailey says. Joe says, Grizz about to do something he doesn't like to do. Cook Matip. I may not. I've done enough cooking. I've got Errol here to take out for that kind of shit. You know what I mean? I've got a reputation. Errol's ready to go raw. Maybe not. Eric Seven Hard.
We season it, man. We need to simmer. We need to simmer into the season, man. We can't just go gung ho from the off, man. It's.
Well, you don't have to. I might. You don't have to. I just might. Cav's in the building. Smash the like. Hi, Cav.
Big up, Cav.
Everyone wave at Cav. Hi, Cav. Smash the like, man. Grizz out getting his legs out. Oh, you missed it, mate. Aren't you jealous? You know, you're not on a stream where I've got my legs out. Hey, that was a moment of history. People, 350 of you gathered. Of course, we've got the brilliant Moby joining us in a matter of 20 minutes or so, where we will be discussing all things South American talent linked with Liverpool. Of course, we will be discussing the latest developments in the saga that is Romeo Lavia. But I must start with the present right now. And right now is how long to go before the start of the season, lads?
It's 11 days, is it?
11 days.
11 or 12, something like that, approximately.
Okay. I'll start with you, Soccer God. 11 days to go till the start of the Premier League season 2023-24. How ready is your club?
How ready is my club is in a matter of intense interpretation and subjectivity. I will say for myself, Grizz, I'm torn because on one hand, I just badly want the transfer window to end. But on the other hand, I don't feel like I've had long enough break. Nowhere near long enough. I blinked and July happened. I blinked and June happened. And that's how it feels. You know, time's just moving way too quickly. Are Liverpool ready or not? I'm sure we will dive straight into that. It's a big talking point.
It is. Saeed, of course, is here to troll. You know, we lost our first game of the preseason, and he says, big issues for Liverpool. And he's here. Worry about your own club. Are you the same club that's just lost 3 in a row in preseason and you're worried about Liverpool? Get out of here. Please, everyone show Saeed the exit door in the chat. Please.
Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow. I got something for you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Have something for him. Have something for him, Errol. And give him something from me as well.
Yeah,
cheek of him. The cheek of him. Let me get through the super chat before it gets lost amongst the comments. Jono sends in a super chat. First super chat of the night says, if Robertson played his role instead of bombing on like he does, do you think we would have played better? For 40 million, what left-sided centre-back would you get? We will get into that. I will start that comment. We'll get back into it. And we'll talk about it in the segment that is transfers and players. Thank you very much for that, though, Jono. Appreciate that. Moby. I'm just doing the like how he's probably saying it. I'm sure he's not saying Moby hard. I'm actually what is that? There must be a phrase for that when you read it out like it's supposed to be said.
Emphatically,
no,
the oomph, even a little bit of oomph behind it.
I don't think it's emphatically, Errol. I'm sure. I reckon there's a more technical word for it, but obviously none of us know it.
Gusto. Giving a bit of gusto.
No, there's an actual technical word of reading out, bro. In the.
I know what you mean. I've only just grasped the Scouse vernacular. You're trying to get me to go on the realm of our spectrum, man. Like,
Moby,
operating my wheelhouse, yeah.
It's not mimicking, man. You guys, man, come on. Hold on. Unless there's something rude, this sounds like something it could be.
No, it's a good word. I don't know the full meaning.
I know it might be something totally.
That's a beautiful profile pic, by the way, Shiv. I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of that. Yeah.
Wait. We could be onto something. A lot of people are saying it, so we could be onto something. This could be an education and a half. I've just
man said phonetically.
Even I know that's not right. Even I know. The use or creation of a word that phonetically imitates, resembles, or suggests the sound that it describes.
That's the one.
That's it. A textbook. Yeah.
Okay. Onomatopoeia. If you don't know, now you do. Errol. Penultimate game of preseason. We've only got one game to go. Bayern Munich was always going to be a test, a real test of how far we are fitness-wise, tactically, formation. Do you think selection-wise it's an indication of what we could see against Chelsea?
More or less. I'd say we're probably about 90% there. There's probably one, maybe two places that are still up for grabs.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, and that's an opportunity for obviously the lads have already put a lot into the preseason anyway. So Klopp's already got his guesstimation, and he's kind of figuring out what he wants that team to eventually start to look like for a run of games. It's not just about the one-off game as Chelsea in isolation. It's about how can we build on this 11? How can this 11 be in the best shape as possible so that any of the one that we then come in and add into it is only adding to improve as opposed to kind of filling potential gaps. With that being said, I think there's probably two positions. I wasn't wholly sure on Curtis Jones starting in the 6, if I'm completely honest. I don't think he would be as daring to go to Stamford Bridge and throw Jones in the 6 there in that position. Not to say that I think there's two elements to the 6.
What choice has he got, brother?
This is what we can touch on really, because the elements to the 6 for me, I think in terms of distribution, ball retention, and kind of moving the ball between the lines, I think Jones is capable of doing that. Is he the best suited to do it? Probably in the squad right now in terms of fitness. He's probably top 2, top 3 potentially. However, for me, in terms of what I would expect from what we've had as the 6 in Fabinho, is somebody that is able to win the ball high up the pitch, somebody who's been able to engage, someone who's able to then break up the lines, disturb the team from being able to set up and play out from the back. And that's Fabinho at his pomp. That's the best form of Fabinho, bear in mind. It's not the Fabinho that we had to endure for the last 8 to 10 months or whatever it was. So those two elements to it for me, I can see why Curtis has been given the opportunity to play in that position. However, I don't think the physicality and the insight into the sensing of the danger, I don't think that's his natural game. I think that's where he'll probably struggle, because you'll probably get exposed and found out a little bit too much there for my liking. And do we have enough time now? Are there enough minutes left in pre-season for him to fully get to grips of that side of his responsibilities if he's going to be deployed as a 6? My answer right now is probably no. It doesn't. It would, based on the evidence we've seen from today's game, it wouldn't suggest that he is the guy to be deployed in that role. So there's a lot to be said there. I'll pass over to Evan and I'll hand over to him in terms of the front line. I think that is still it still hasn't picked itself yet, and I'd like to see what you guys think of how that front line is starting to come together. Would you still go with the front 3 that we've seen start the game today potentially?
Yeah, look,
two-thirds of the way there, in my opinion, Grizz. I think 2 names pick themselves. It's what's a complete matter of subjectivity is just who starts at left wing, because you've seen promising displays from Jota towards the tail end of last season. He bounced back and was literally winning games for us. And then we've seen positive flashes from Diaz just scoring wonderful sort of solo goals in preseason, bouncing back from his own injury woes. I think Gakpo centrally, Mohamed Salah on the right wing. Forget the front 3; those are the first 2 names on the team sheet. In my opinion, I think Cody Gakpo is absolutely phenomenal. In 12 months' time, we'll be talking about him as like an undisputed top 10 player in the league. I just think he's absolutely fantastic. 37 million for him. He's worth 90 now as a minimum. And then Mohamed Salah is Mohamed Salah. What are you going to do? He's absolutely irreplaceable. What do you think, Grizz, though? Is that your
we done the Red Fellas, didn't we, on Sunday?
Yeah.
There we at, and we kind of sort of gave our opinions on what we think the front 3 is going to be. And I wouldn't be surprised if we ask each other every day for the remainder of the 11 days left. I think we'd probably chop and change pretty much every day. And each combination that we bring up and suggest or think, we'd be happy with, because look, we'll get into it. Just H demanding I read out his super chats. He says, Saeed, your manager has spent 450 million in 1 year, dead. And then he says, read my super chat, bro. So I read that like a threat. So I'll quickly get that out of the way. Please, I don't want no trouble. No, I'll read it out. Look, let's start from the back. There's no issues at the back. In terms of selection, do you see the thinking behind Matip starting this game? What possibly could have been the thinking behind it? Because obviously there was that comment earlier on about Matip, and obviously someone must have been following my Twitter where I said Joe's a legend. I can't watch him play, especially in this system. I think you're on mute, Errol. But I can't.
I was waiting for you to finish. It's a free hit.
Joe Matip's a legend.
No, but it's a free hit though for us. I think it's Klopp's way of assessing.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a clever, calculated way to be able to say, not necessarily prove me wrong, but prove me right. I don't think you've got the legs for this anymore. I need to see it for myself with my own eyes, but I need to see it with capable bodies around you. I can't do it and have you as the head statesman with, you know, a young centre back with you, a young right back learning the trade, someone makeshift or Simicast kind of an understudy to Robbo, left back. We could change the goalkeeper if Alisson doesn't do the full 90 minutes. I don't think you would fully be able to unpack the issues that Joel Matip brings now if you still kind of give him the excuses that he's got other people around him that he's having to kind of keep an eye on or shepherd or do other jobs for. It was almost, I am going to expose you around, this is the team. If you aren't able to swim with this team, you will inevitably sink, but I need to see you struggle and sink before I can cast you away. And I is that really harsh by Klopp? I don't know if it's harsh, but I think it's a necessary evil. We need to see what some of these players, especially the ones that have been struggling over the last 12 months, we need to see what they're capable of against opposition that are fearless, against opposition that have got bags of pace, against opposition that don't get shook of the badge Liverpool and think, we're still going to come and play. It was a great example of that for me.
Everyone might have a point here, Ev, because there's no doubt this is probably one of the quickest forward lines in Europe, in Bayern Munich, I'm talking about. Sane, Gnabry, Musiala, to name three. Have whoever else missed out. There was quite Alphonso Davies. I mean, what an exhibition of speed he put in. I mean, the only guy that's made Salah almost give up a chase. That was quite something. But yeah, I couldn't work it out. Obviously, preseason is about experimentation and sort of trying to iron out a few things. I couldn't work out. Everything else made sense. Curtis Jones, no option but to try him in the 6 against a high-level opposition who loved dominating the ball and playing in those half spaces where Curtis Jones is a novice. But what was the thinking with the Joel Matip one, especially with Trent inverted and this new formation that we play? Almost putting him out to sort of, you know, get like to the Lions, right?
Yeah.
What's your thinking?
Don't get me wrong. I've seen individual decline in plenty of Liverpool players in the last 12 months. You know, it's obviously there. I'm not debating it, but I would say that right center back role in this new back three, I think that has outgrown Joel Matip faster than Joel Matip has declined. If that makes sense, because we see it's been described as Kanate's right center back role in the back three. It's this superhuman job that only a true physical freak with true game intelligence can do, which is Ibu Konate. Because when Trent reverts and we lose possession and they instantly go for the left wing, you're gonna want Ibu Konate in the trenches in that situation. It doesn't speak to Joel Matip's strengths. Why he was chosen ahead of Konate today, I'm not quite sure. You could just put it down to like maybe Joel Matip needed the minutes in his legs more than Konate did. It could be as simple as Konate had a stomach ache when he woke up this morning and was only cleared to play 20, 30 minutes. Who knows? And again, we will never know because it's such a minute detail. But I will say that Joel Matip, we're not getting the best out of him in this system. Not at all, because Joel Matip's on-ball qualities were as important for Liverpool during their peak as what he could do off the ball in defense. And in this new shape, with so much of the progressive responsibility going towards a double pivot, going at the opposition vertically, I'm just not quite sure we get to see Joel Matip express himself a little bit more. It feels silly to say he's a center back, but I genuinely feel that way.
I was going to say, Errol, I know you want to jump in, but I got a little bit... Because I'm the kind of fan that always wants to give a Liverpool player another chance, another chance. That's just me. That's how I operate. I don't want to finish off Liverpool players and that's it. There's no return. So when I saw, or when we see that he hasn't been sold, and he may yet be sold, we don't know that. Again, there's 10, 11 days to go. No, sorry, there's 2-3 weeks to go of the transfer window. But when I saw in the first couple of games, he played centrally in the 3 at the back, I thought maybe Jurgen and Pep Linders have decided to experiment a little bit and change his role slightly. Instead of playing that right-sided centre-back, as you said, when Trent's inverting, isolating him, having him to cover half the pitch, right? Maybe they've recognized the deficiencies or the weaknesses and deployed him. They played Gomez on the right in that right back role, and they played Konza. They reverted back to type. Errol, we're going to play this system first. Do you think is going to be the go-to system? Because you might think it might not be the go-to system, but I firmly believe it is the go-to system. And if it is the go-to system, I don't want Joe Matip to play any league game of any importance.
Well, this is
unless an emergency.
Well, this is the question that I was about to literally throw back to you. Almost, I accept and I agree that this is probably going to be the new system, which is the way that we're going to move forward. But my question is, do we have now too many players that are in their own right specialists at individual elements of the game, but they don't blend together to fit in this? It basically, they don't complement this system enough in the way that Trent is specialist to get the most. It's like we can only get the most out of one, and he said we're going to get the most out of Trent, if that makes sense. I don't know. I probably worded that horribly, but like,
I know what you mean though, because Leighton saying something similar. Is it wise to play a system that dependent on 1 or 2 players? If Trent isn't there, what do we do? If Khanage isn't there, what do we do?
So that, yeah, it's that kind of line of thinking that I'm kind of going on with that, I guess.
Evan, this system,
Robbo's the same. You could say Robbo's kind of guilty of it as well. I still think, and we'll probably get onto this at some point, Luis Diaz is still heavily guilty. Although this system, because he was, my concerns with Diaz came from the old system. I haven't seen enough of Diaz in this system to really have an informed decision to say whether he actually can work for us in this system. But there are a couple of players, and the likes of the 2 most important players in this system for me right now are Trent and Gakpo.
Well,
they
Jono,
are the 2 most important ones to make this tick to the best it can.
I know we've spoken about the right side and Trent and Konate and Matip, but Jono's adamant that he wants to speak about Robertson. He says, for me, it's the left-sided centre-back that needs sorting out. Love Robertson to bits, but in the new formation, he's just not right for it. What you think? Evan, I know you've got a slightly different theory or thinking about this. You're more about the system than opposed to the person. No, am I right? Or maybe
I am not going to gaslight anybody and say that they're wrong for saying that that Robertson is so far proven to be an awkward system fit at left-sided center back. No doubt about it. I think in a perfect world, you have somebody who's more to the center of that left back, center back hybrid. Think Vardiol from Leipzig is a good example. He's definitely more towards the middle of the spectrum in the combination of the two, whereas Robertson obviously is trending overwhelmingly towards being a left back rather than a center back. So that is without a doubt true. It seems like it's a bit of an awkward fit. My defense of Robertson today was people, I think, were starting to give him like the Lovren treatment, which I just think is appalling, because on his day, Andrew Robertson is a world-class player, and making fail comps and just things that I've seen on the timeline I shouldn't even give attention to. But I will say that one thing I do reject is that Robertson is going positionally rogue when he bombs forward. Like, that's not an instruction. Like, at the highest level, if he's going 80 yards up the pitch from left center back to offer an option in the final third, it's because it's an instruction. It's because he's been given the freedom to do that. Like, if he was told to stay back at all times and he was constantly leaving his position by up to 80 yards,
makes no sense.
You get subbed. I got subbed for doing that in high school. That was high school. This is the highest level of the game. So I reject that he's just going rogue constantly. But undoubtedly, I think Liverpool need a different type of option.
Is that teething problems though, Evan, in terms of because what he had down when we was the 4-3-3, it was the timing with the Mane, with Genie being there, and I know that we Mane, well, 1 season removed from Mane, 2 or 3 seasons removed from Genie, or almost now, but the timing was crucial to Robertson being able to be that outlet down that left hand side for us. Do you think there's an element of him not necessarily forcing it, but trying to get the rhythm? Go on, sorry, Chris.
No. You're sorry. I was just about to come in only when you finished.
No,
I think you're spot on.
Question.
I think it's timing. I think it's understanding, and it's building relationships, football relationships.
Okay.
That whole left side is completely new, not only system wise, the method of play wise, personnel wise as well. We don't, as Evan said, I think Evan said it, or one of you said it. We literally don't know who's going to start on the left. The first game of the season, we don't know. It could be Jota, it could be Diaz, it could even be Gakpo. We don't know. I don't think we're 100% certain who's going to be the left-sided 8, really. So it's a whole new system. It's about building relationships. Mane, Robertson, and Gini were probably the best left side in my life.
Or easily. And I think we take it for granted because of how intuitive it was for them, how hard working it was, how well Genie held onto the ball, recycled the ball, retained the ball, how much freedom, as Evan said, about Robertson being able to get up and down, and how explosive Mane was. We took it for granted because that was just the level. That's what was expected.
Yeah.
We spoke early last season, and one of the first things I remember saying on the channel last season with you was that left-hand side worries me. The synergy between Diaz and Robertson's not the same. Not having a permanent left-sided 8 is leaving us in more bother than what we can actually handle right now. And it looks as though that is still going to be an area that's going to need a lot of work and attention in order to alleviate, because we were so lopsided early parts of last season. We were so heavily reliant on that right-hand side because we just didn't have the synergy on that left-hand side to really cause teams a problem. It was more of a hindrance for us, and it still seems like there's a little bit, but let's be honest, there's probably a lot of work that needs to be done over the course of the early parts of the season.
Yeah, look, the main talking point of the game, without going into the goals, we'll touch upon a couple of goals and situations and whatnot. But the main talking point about the game was how we're going to observe Curtis Jones in the 6 in the DM alongside Trent. I want your thoughts on how you think he'd done, and how do you think we go about it in sort of the first couple of weeks, as it looks likely at this stage he may be the only option, or do you suggest something else in-house?
I don't always have sort of like crystal ball prophecies about football because I'm just some guy on the internet voicing my opinions. But one thing I think I did get right was just sort of how it would play out for Curtis Jones today in the 6. I thought he would be incredible in a pivot role in the sense of that he's press resistant, and Allison and center backs can play it to him under pressure with the confidence that he's not going to do something stupid and lose the ball. And he obviously got himself out of tight situations more than a few times in those jaw-dropping ways that he does with his just natural ball retention, press resistance. So in that sense, he's great for a pivot option because he suits our system, which is to play out of the back. But in my sort of, I don't know if you would call it skepticism about it, but my feeling was that it would be a different story when the game is being taken to him. Like when Bayern are pressing forward into our half, they've bypassed the midfielders in front of him. He doesn't have the security. I thought there would be a bit of a deer in the headlights type moment for Curtis Jones, where he perhaps wasn't assertive enough to take the foul or stand his ground or just behave in that sort of lighthousey fashion that we'd come to expect from Fabinho over the years.
What is evidence? He's expecting protection, not realizing he is meant to be the protection.
Exactly. When you spend so much of your time as a front-footed, like pressing sort of defensive force, which he's an exceptional front-footed pressing defender as an advanced midfielder. He's exceptional, probably the best in the squad at it, I'd argue. But it's another thing when they're coming, when the wave is about to hit you, It's one thing when you are the wave. It's another thing when the wave is hitting you. Is what
and
I
that
would
was
say.
very apparent, wasn't it, in the first sort of couple of times where they ran at us and he missed.
Yeah. First time, like one of their pacey forwards had a go at him. He kind of just stuck a leg in, fell over, didn't really engage. Again, it's a brand new role, but I think in certain game states, you could absolutely do it. In a pinch, in an emergency, at home to a respectfully weaker team, I think you could absolutely do a pivot of Trent and Jones when you're in the trenches against some of the world's best forwards. I think that's where people start to have problems and where the source of a lot of anxiety is around recruiting a holding midfielder.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think it's very similar to the Matip feeding to the Lions analogy that Errol gave about Matip. I think with Curtis Jones as well, you couldn't have picked a worse midfield to play that against. Maybe you could have Man City's, but Bayern's, is definitely up there in terms of how they occupy those spaces, I should say, and how they develop their attacks from pretty much every and any angle. Errol, my fear for Curtis Jones is finding him a specific role position moving forward, because now he's played right wing, he's played left wing, he's played as an 8, he's played as a double pivot, and today he played as a DM6, I guess with a double pivot Trent, but you know what I mean? He's being used everywhere, utilized everywhere. I don't think he lets us down because the guy's got natural ability, and some of his ability to come out of tight spaces. If we saw and I'm not comparing him, don't you dare clip this and think I'm comparing him. But when we see Busquets do those little turns, we are, Busquets. Curtis Jones has got the ability to get out of tight holes because of his situations, because of his technique and strength and his ability. But the number 6, as Evan says, when you're facing a barrage, and it's a total different world out there. What are you saying, man? Position wise, where are we going to settle with him?
I'm not as concerned as you, because for me, I feel like there is used to being able to be versatile in this Liverpool squad, and when he eventually gets to, and I hope he gets to a level where whatever position you put him in, the drop off is not significant because he can come in and do a job, almost to the mold of a Milner. You get through games throughout the season with Milner. He used to be playing left back, then it went over to right back, and then it was 6, and then it'd be left side of the 8. And at times for certain games and certain situations, it was enough. Did it blow your socks off? Did it make you think, yes, today's the day where we're going to absolutely destroy a team? No, but in terms of a heavy set season, when you've got games thick and fast twice a week coming at you, the ability to be able to do that and have those players, really important. So Jones, to me, can transition into that to an extent. However, for me, the important thing is giving him enough minutes in his preferred position. Well, not necessarily his preferred position, but the position Klopp wants him to eventually. It's almost like Trent's been given the vice captaincy now from a club status perspective, with the view to become the heir apparent, and you will be Liverpool's captain one day. Jones has almost got to do that from a positional perspective. Play enough positions, do what you want, but eventually when the time comes and I need you to play your position, you are ready for that mantle and you are ready to hold that position for whatever competitions, Europa, League Cup, FA Cup, games in the Prem around January, Christmas, when it's thick and fast. And I think, to me, the best position for him is going to be that left side of the 8. I think that is probably the one where he's probably the most comfortable. It's the one where I've probably seen him play his best football in the Liverpool share for us. And I think to have all the other bits are a nice compliment, but that is where he needs to be able to start to now make his bread and butter. When he gets his opportunities, that's where you need to start shining, lad. If you can start to shine, not just tide us over, but if you can start to shine in that position, you will get more opportunities. And eventually, it might not be this season, it may not be next season, but come a season and a half time, when we need, and you're looking in the market for, another 50, 60 million pound midfielder, you've got one in Curtis Jones that just says, I'm ready for it now. 38 game a season. I'm going to give you 34 games, and you're going to get no drop off from what you've previously had from McAllister, what you've previously had from Gini, and what you once aspired Thiago to be consistently. I can do that role for you now. And I think that's what he needs to aspire to be able to do, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think I've settled on his position. I think he's going to be tried to be molded into Klopp's version of Gini Wijnaldum. Not Gini Wijnaldum for the Holland team or what he was at, what he became at Liverpool. I think that is the aim of the coaches. Going to talk about probably your favorite player right now. Our very own Noor is in the building. Big up Noor. He says, talk about how Gakpo intrudes into McAllister spaces and how I think Gakpo is. I said it's something about. Oh, sorry, it wasn't on a show. It was on a Spaces. Shout the lads from Cop and Fracas, who will be doing a collaboration on this channel very soon as well. So shout them out. They held the Spaces, and we were speaking about leaders and captains, and obviously the loss of so many leaders and captains, but the emerging bunch. And I referenced Gakpo as one of the emerging leaders. Not many people expected that, I think he's got traits of leadership. I know he was captain of his club team, but I think he's matured and he's coming to this team like he belongs here.
Absolutely. You look at the leaders that are already in the team, players, Virgil van Dijk, club and country now, Andrew Robertson, Mohamed Salah, Alisson. There's just, multiple pillars of leadership in the team. But it's also nice to have someone to lead by example, even if they are on the younger side, 23, 24. And Cody Gakpo, I think, everything suggests so far that's a player with a top mentality, top attitude. I'm going to have to retract my statement that nobody could ever do the Firmino role as well as Firmino, because his progress in the last 6 months of learning how to do this role is scary. And he offers a physical edge to the game that Firmino probably didn't even have at his peak. Gakpo offers maybe more of a striker's instinct than Firmino. He is doing the role slightly differently, and it feels like it's been modified to suit his physical advantages. But some of the things he does just under pressure, it's just jaw-dropping. It's little things, It's nice when he rifles one into the, top corner to start the game off. I love that. But some of the turns, some of the touches, he might have the, next to Thiago, he might have the best touch in the entire squad. Maybe. I mean, if you look at the type of touches, he's taking touches under pressure with defenders on his back in tight situations. And not only that, but he has to take the touch and ideally thread the teammate to score. And ideally take the shot and score himself. It's a different type of first touch. I'm blown away by Cody Gakpo, really.
Talking about being blown away, I'm introducing my guest who's making his debut on my channel, I believe. I'm sure we've done something together in the past. I can't remember what. Maybe it was Spaces. I think he was on a stream with me. But I want to welcome Moby, who blows us all away with his ability to spot talent from all across the world. Moby, how are you? And very welcome.
Hey, thank you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the warm welcome. Thank you for having me. I can't remember if this is the debut or not, but
yeah,
let's pretend I'm
definitely a debut on this channel. But me and you have done something on another channel that I used to work for. 2 years ago. That's what it is. I was thinking.
Okay. I'm just like a new signing, as Klopp said.
You're the Gakpo. You're the Gakpo, as Evan was talking about. Actually, guys, if you don't know Moby, first and foremost, where have you been in terms of Liverpool, LFC, Twitter? And secondly, me and Moby have got an interesting history. Me and Moby, I'd like to think, are one of the positive stories of social media. And I just want to very quickly give a background story. I hope I don't embarrass Moby too much, but it has to be said. Me and Moby used to be following each other, known each other for about 6 to 7 years, I think, Moby. And or maybe more, I'm not sure, because I'm old and I'm losing my memory.
No, you're right. I think that was right.
We fell out, and I have no recollection of what it was. We were young, we were naive, we were just bunch of young lads 7 years ago, you know, tweeting away, and we fell out and we blocked each other. But someone called Bilal from Slough, a very good friend of mine. Shout out to Bilal if he's watching.
Shout out.
Reached out to us, absolutely, and he brought us together many years later. And we didn't really remember why we blocked each other or why we fell out. But one of the most powerful uses of social media is to build bridges and try to understand each other, get to know each other better. And once you do, you realize Twitter's not real. This is real. Speaking to someone, communicating with someone. It's all about having real life communication with people. And so I just wanted to point that out.
100%.
I'm so sorry. I don't want to.
No. All good. You know what? It might inspire others.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing.
That's the only reason I said it.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I know a lot of people out there have, you know, fallen out and all that stuff. Just remember.
Yeah, sorry. You're not going inside, Daddy's. Hi.
Hi.
We are home already.
It's okay. You can tell Moby's with the family day out. It's okay.
Family friends.
Hope they're all doing well. Moby there? Okay. He's sorting out the kids. While he sorts out the kids. But yeah, I wanted to give a bit of background.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
No problem. Take your time.
Take your time. Sorry. I'm good now. I'm good.
No problem. You there?
Yeah, I'm good. Did you?
Good.
Excellent. Yeah,
I missed it. I wanted to bring that up just to, as you say, maybe an example, inspiration to people that Twitter's not real. Falling out on Twitter is not really real. You know, calling people names and stuff behind aliases and all sorts is not real. You know, get real. That was the message. Moby, hope you're doing very well. As I said, thank you very much for joining us. While you're here, while we're at it, let's get your opinion on today's game briefly, but overall, where do you think Liverpool are at in terms of ready for the Premier League campaign?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, it's preseason is always just a practice session to try different things. But I think I'd probably be with everybody else who thinks that we're not quite there yet in terms of reinforcements. I think it's pretty obvious. We are solid up top. I remember a couple of years ago there was a meme going around with the Ferrari front and a broken car with the back. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
Yeah.
That's us. Yeah, it feels like that's where we are at right now. But look, the midfield is starting to take shape. We still need players in. If we get who we're supposed to get, that'll make us solid. But I think defense is where we really need to shore up. Look, clock is ticking and options are dwindling. So I think coaches are feeling the pressure right now. Yeah,
look, someone who's not feeling the pressure right now is Gakpo, as we were talking about while we introduced Moby. I'll still stick with you because we started there. The goal, I mean, you know, lovely bit of interplay between Jota, who's, again, link-up play is underrated. We always talk about his finishing and his cold-bloodedness in front of goal and his cool, but I think his link-up play and his ability to just thread a pass is growing. And Gakpo is definitely growing. What a finish.
Yeah, incredible. I think, look, we are, we have the right firepower, I think, up top to fight anybody in Premier League right now. I think we are definitely one of the best attacks that there is right now. But, attacks might win a few games, but defense wins you trophies and titles. So it reminds me back of those SAS era where we are always banging in more goals than, but still losing the game. So, look, embarrassment of riches up top. Everybody's really firing on cylinders. This Ben Doak guy is incredible, right? I mean, begs the question, should we include him?
It segues into the second half because we've just discussed pretty much around the first half team and sort of the selection. But Ev, that second half, I'm always looking out for Ben Doak in the second half of every preseason game. Was there anyone or in particular anything that you was looking for in the second half team, so to speak?
I mean, I'm always excited. Were you asking?
No, Evan. Evan. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody's watching Ben Doak, and I'm super excited. I don't really have consistent access to the academy games, so I haven't been able to watch Ben Doak at that level as much as some people have. And the hype coming out around Ben Doak was incredible. I mean, folks who've watched the academy games liken his readiness for the next level to that they saw of Fowler and Owen back during the day at similar levels. So it's obviously a huge cosign. We don't want to put too much pressure on the kid. You know, in such a tender age, he has so much time ahead of him. There's absolutely no rush. Don't worry, mate. We have Mohamed Salah. We have Cody Gakpo. We have a plethora of attacking talent. So you, my friend, you just take your time and become the best player you can be. I was looking to see kind of what Ben Doak would do with the ball once he beat his man, because I think if there's one thing we can all conclusively agree on is that he's going to absolutely embarrass any fullback he comes up against, regardless of whether it's Karlsruhe or Bayern Munich. It apparently doesn't seem to matter. One thing for sure is he's beating his man. He's getting to the byline. It's going to happen 2 to 3 times in the space of 15 minutes. And it's all about, I was looking to see what he was going to do next. And obviously one of his crosses is a bit too high for Darwin Nunez. They were maybe not on the same page there, but he does tee up Bobby Clark to create, I would imagine, I haven't seen the numbers, but probably a very high XG chance. So I was looking to see what Ben Doak would do once he did beat the man Grizz, because it seems like a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen.
Errol, I know you mainly watched the second half. What was your observations? What was you looking for in the second half? And anything that you had in mind, did it disappoint or did it enhance your opinion on anyone or anything in that second half?
It didn't disappoint me, bro. I went into it thinking, yo, let me see how we see out a game. And that was the wrong attitude to have with this Liverpool team at this stage in their season. We're not ready to see out games right now. And I'm laughing because it was very naive of me to think, all right, 3-2, yeah, against the Bayern team. All right, let's see this out. Let's just let the game pitter away. There was none of that. There was no pittering about. It was high octane, high energy, still littered with mistakes, but there was the right intentions. And I think that is really important for me. I think seeing the right signs. I played footy on Monday and we absolutely got destroyed on Monday. Again, not a competitive game.
As you do,
just playing for the our fitness.
As you do.
But the lads, I kept saying to the lads, there was a few moments. The other team, I didn't think they got out to second or third gear. But when we was playing and we actually started to get ourselves back into the game and we got it close again, we reduced the deficit. I was like, when things were going wrong, I was like, it's okay, because the idea was there. I knew what you was trying to do and you wasn't a million miles away. So I can live with that. And there was loads of little moments like that littered throughout the second half, which you can appreciate as a Liverpool fan. I think there was one where Klopp, I especially loved as well. And I think the camera pans to him for his expression on it when it doesn't actually end up in a goal. But he could see that every part up until the final pass or to the final strike was perfect. It was exactly how he would have wanted it to go. So I think there are going to be, my only apprehension is I don't want those moments to start to turn into moments of frustration, which is, I think, the point that Mo was making before. We've got the firepower. So if there is an individual that misses two chances, there's going to be somebody else jolly on the spot to pop up with another goal. It might not be the great goal that we was expecting, but it's going to be an important goal that hopefully helps us see us over the line in matches and games to come. So there's plenty of pros. There is still a lot of defensive frailties within this Liverpool side. I think obviously once the Van Dijk goes off and the changes, I don't think Tsimikas, I think, we spoke about Robertson struggling in that position from that left-hand side. I think Tsimikas is another one that struggles from it. Someone who's usually really good at a dead ball situation as well. I don't particularly think his deliveries were the best. So I don't know if he's just struggling at the moment. He's in a bit of a difficult point in his own career and kind of in a bit of a limbo. Do a stick or twist? How much effort do I really put into things right now? And it is very difficult. But the overarching feeling was that this Liverpool team are going to scare a lot of teams, create an abundance of chances, but without that balance that enables them to see out games, they are going to be very vulnerable from the counter-attack. And it was very telling that it really only took 1 or 2 passes, and that was symptomatic of us last season. So that, for me, is still a big worry. And I know that there's new personnel, so you can point to different reasons as to why, but if the end outcome is the same, something fundamentally has to change. So I don't know what it is going to be. I don't know what Klopp and his team are going to work on, but for me, allowing teams to just pass through you in 1 or 2 passes, that to me is too worrying. I can't sit comfortably watching us this season if that's how teams are going to get in and get their chances against us, because it only took 1 or 2 chances last season and teams were punishing us. Alisson on his day is absolutely brilliant, but he is not impenetrable.
Moby, I hope you're there. Is Moby there?
Yeah.
Excellent. Mobs, Errol talks about how do we make ourselves harder to beat, like the Liverpool that we're used to and accustomed to, especially a Klopp Liverpool. We were far too easy to play against last season. We know some of the reasons were personnel, lack of energy, lack of legs. We've tried to address that in a number of ways, bringing in a younger sort of the younger players playing a more prominent role, possibly the Elliots and Jones, namely Ben Doak, possibly as well, and also new recruits. That is key. That was key. Our plan, our ideas. Each Liverpool fan had this idea that the only way to come out of this rut was to bring in the right personnel and the right amount of personnel. We've brought in 2, Moby. We need more. The latest name linked was someone that you made me aware of. I had no idea who he was until you spoke about him a few months ago. I can't even remember. I only know his name as Andre. I don't even know his surname. The only reason I know Andre is because I was a big fan of Peter Andre growing up. Mysterious girl and all that. This guy's pretty mysterious to me as
Evan,
well.
does that mean anything to you?
No, Evan's probably thinking, what the F is goes on about? But Evan's going to start smiling when he Googles it and finds out what I'm talking about. As he always does.
It was a very steamy video there, Evan. So
yeah, exactly. Evan, don't watch that live on the show, the video. But Moby, Andre, talk to us. What made you notice this guy, and what makes you, or are you convinced that he's the right profile of player that we should be targeting, like we seemingly are?
Yeah, so Andre, as he's called in Brazil, he's a fantastic defensive midfielder who is very much of a modern day midfielder in the sense that he can create, he can push the ball up the pitch, a lot like Lavia does, what he can do actually. And I got to know him pretty well because he actually has a teammate called Alexander, who's actually also a really good midfielder, but he's out injured right now. But Andre is a solid player. Look, he's so crucial for Fluminense that the president doesn't want to sell him, and the board has made a decision not to sell him this Libertadores because he's such a crucial player for the team. But as far as I understand, even if the window is closed, he's still able to move. He's still able to make a decision to leave for January, which is something that's pretty much it would be the smartest thing from our side. I do have my doubts. Because we have been reluctant in the past to get players directly from South America, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But look, there's two thoughts in my head on this thing. One, either we are actually changing our ways and being smart to getting a player in 6 months who will be worth more, especially if they win the Libertadores. His price is going to keep going up, and in 2-3 years he'll be worth a solid 60 to 80 million euros. Right now he's about 25 to 30, which is a pretty solid price in this market. But I also think, given the very public knowledge of interest in him through the Brazilian media, I think it's also our way of letting Southampton know, look, yes, they might not be the exact same profile, but we're still going to play this game, and to make you realize that you're not the only option in town. So both of these scenarios are, I think, pretty much where we're at right now, and I think both of them are what the club is probably assessing.
Moby, I've got a question for you though, bro, because we've not got a great track record of signing from South American source. Is this brother going to be one that gets a visa and a work permit if we sign him, so we can just jump into that first team? We can't have another Alan. Me and the boys were laughing about this in the group chat today. We signed Alan. He done 6 loans across Europe and has ended up back in Brazil, and he's only scored 1 career goal in Europe in that time. So I just want to know, if we buy him and pay the money, can we play him?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, actually. So in the past, it was really difficult to get a work permit. Since Brexit, that actually changed the rules, where in the past you had to get points based on playing for your country's national team and different youth levels, which increased your points to get a work permit. Since Brexit, it's actually become easier for South American kids to come to England because they don't require those points. If you play in a tournament like the Libertadores, you get tons of points, and that counts towards the UK work permit, which is why you see Brighton signing all those players, which is why Man City, for example, signed Alvarez directly from Argentina straight into their team. So that is not a problem anymore. But on top of that, the Premier League made a change this summer where we're able to sign 2 to 4 players without a work permit. So we don't even need a work permit for him specifically if he comes in. But even if he did, he'd still qualify because, as you can see yesterday, a lot of the fans watched him play for Libertadores. And these big tournaments are actually what gives the most points towards getting a work permit. But he's safe. We don't even need a permit for 2 to 4 players from anywhere.
Get him. I'm on board the Andre train. Get him.
Evan, I want to come to you, Evan. And as we're playing this this video comp of just obviously one game, I've become an expert just watching this, and I don't need to get any new information from anyone else. But look, in terms of what kind of profile of player he comes across as, or stylistically, and the first thing that fans usually want to know is, who does he remind you of? Who does he profile as? Someone who's a household name, so we can have a better understanding. You know how it works. Someone messaged me today actually and said he's a cross between Thiago and Vidal. The Vidal, the
Destroyer. Juventus. He's hasn't he played
the madman? The madman. If looking at this compilation, I can see why the guy said that. So he's obviously got an eye for a pass, and he's got definitely an eye for a tackle as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely profiles more. He's definitely closer to Vidal than Thiago on that spectrum. I would definitely say. I think fans have looked at his extremely impressive passing stats and the physical build of his body and height and decided that he is a Thiago clone, which isn't really the case.
Someone said Alan at Napoli.
That person took the words. Was that LFC Aaron? Let me just put their comment up.
Yeah.
Salute to you, my friend, because that was literally, I was 5 seconds away from saying that. You've stolen all my thunder, but I will give you your flowers anyways.
What an intelligent chat we have. This is what I mean about the chat. Such intelligence.
And folks who are thinking of Alan at Napoli, don't judge him off of his spell at Everton. Genuinely at Napoli, he was one of the best midfielders in Serie A. Absolutely. But yeah, this guy, I don't really see the Thiago in him, but what I do see is a very effective player, both in terms of numbers and in terms of eye tests. You can look at him. He's extremely hard to dispossess. Ball retention is really, really impressive. Another cosign I want to give to him is that playing in the Brazilian league, and I've spoken to a lot of Fluminense fans who have reached out on Twitter, lovely group of people, shout out to them. They've spoken about just the cauldron of pressure it is to play in the Brazilian league, just the atmosphere and the culture that the Ultras create at the various clubs is pretty much unmatched. It seems like teeters on the border of just ridiculous, but that's kind of passions, what the game is all about at the end of the day. But yeah, he's fantastic. So to come in and play in the pressure, the limelight of the Premier League, it's a different type of pressure. But the Brazilian league is a type of pressure that we as Premier League fans probably don't have a full grasp of. It's an absolute pressure cooker. So Alan, or sorry, talking about the wrong player now. Andre, fantastic signing. I'm all for it because for me, there have been too many players in South America available for very, very reasonable prices by Liverpool standards. Who have become £100 million players after 6 months in the Premier League. In Enzo Fernandez's case, about a year and a half in the Premier League. For Moises Caicedo's case, it's a route I would like to see Liverpool explore more often, especially now that Moby's pointed out the relaxation in work permits under Brexit. For me, there's no real excuses not to push the boat out into this market more often because it just seems so scripted that a player like this gets bought by Benfica or Porto or Dortmund or Leipzig, and then within months, like I said, his valuation quadruples at a bare minimum. So I'm all for this type of signing. Brings sort of the pace and power that people want back into the midfield. And yeah, he seems like a very tactically flexible option as well.
Moby, brilliant comment by HP here. It's not the work permit I'm worried about, to be honest. It's John Henry's wallet. Moby, but you spoke about his valuation and the release clause, and sort of if we buy him now, he will cost X amount, and if we wait. In your humble opinion, can we afford to wait, or do you risk, or is it a risk doing it now? And even if we buy him now, let him join in January.
Yeah, I think it's a huge risk, and I'll tell you why. He has a very small time agent that represents him, but he got hooked with Jorge Mendes, our friend, who has joined up with him right now. And when Jorge Mendes joins up with you, it's usually for two things: to make you move and to make some money while you're at it.
Yeah.
So I think he is going to move. That's a guarantee. Fulham tried to lodge a 20 million euro bid in January this year. They turned it down. That the Fulham and specifically Forest have signed midfielders directly from Brazil. And I think they will come back. I think Fulham knows Palhinha is going to be gone next year or whatnot. Maybe a Saudi bid comes in. He's definitely inching towards 30. And I think I can definitely see them coming back for him. But he will be sold. Sorry, if we don't act right now. That's just one more player that we lose out on, that can be a great team player, a terrific midfielder for us. But most importantly, worst case, we could have always flipped him for double the value in a few years. So unfortunately, Mr. Henry or the coaches, I guess they're all involved in this discussion. So I don't want to say it's just one or the other, but the club as a whole needs to smarten up a little bit here, because everybody else is doing it.
I can sense, Errol, the almost disappointment as Moby was getting to the point and saying, he started off really positively about the player, and then he was like, but Liverpool and the owners.
Yeah.
Why are we like this, Errol? We can't be like this. We have a couple of weeks to save our window, and I will say it, save our window, because we started off like a house on fire in the window, and we thought this is the window that will change a few minds, maybe not, maybe. And as I said,
it was meant to be the window to right a few wrongs, though, Grizz.
Right a few wrongs. That's the best way of putting it.
That was the purpose of it, and that's how it was dressed up and sold to us. It was dressed up. It looked all fancy. The early works looked promising enough to say, all right, they've learned. And again, the things that they already know they do well, they've applied again, getting players in early, keeping things under the lid, keeping it under wraps, getting players through the door. Not a problem. Buying players at the right price. Again, ticking these boxes. And then for me, if I'm again speculating from the outside looking in, Saudi have come in with the proposals that they have for the players that they've wanted, and that's caught us off guard. That's taken us out of our stride, and then we've had to pivot. Okay, we've got to deal with this now, and we're dealing with this over here, and because now we're dealing with this, it means that everything else that was going on over here doesn't have the care and attention and the detail and the eye for detail that it potentially needs. And within the I think, not saying that undone the good work, but it then put us back on the back foot. And in terms of the back foot now, it's like, right, we've not really got that long left to operate. And when Liverpool historically, and this goes, it's pretty much the entirety of our FSG's, leader of us and ownership of us. When we sold Suarez, we sell him, we go and buy a bag of players, but we don't have a striker. There's a few options on the table. The transfer committee's all there. They're having conversations. We could get this player, you could get that player in. Right, we'll go and get Balotelli. It's a marquee, it's a name, he could come. And it was because the clock was running out. So when the clock was running out, the panic sets in with FSG. They start to begin to really struggle to remain resolute in what it is that they're attempting to do, and they panic.
It's almost like FSG have a set way of doing things, and if that is upset, like it's been upset with the sudden departures of Fabinho and Henderson, which was not in their control, it seems like we work very well when we're in control of the scenario.
We can't freestyle. We got no swagger like that. We can't freestyle the thing and just pick up the mic and just drop 16 bars off the dome. We're not that guy. Unless your bars are written, prescripted. Yeah. You can't turn up to the cipher and shell out. It doesn't happen like that, bro. We're not that MC. I probably lost half of the chat with that analogy. But it happened again last season with Melo. We knew very late in the window that we needed to have an extra body in midfield, and the options that were available to us were very limited. And all of a sudden, the panic was there. I think who else was who was it behind the scenes pulling the strings for that one? Was it, what's the guy's name? Intensity Linders. I think Linda said, "Oh yeah, he's good. He's a good professional, good pro. Get him in." And the deal's done. And before you know it, he doesn't get 90 minutes for Liverpool Football Club. So we are risking going down that same path again. Have we got enough time to save it and rectify? That is the $1 million question. And I think Liverpool fans rightfully have got a lot, remain very skeptical at this point, because we can really only go off our track record, and our track record of this type of situation doesn't bode well.
Riz, can I join in to say a few minutes on that topic? I just wanted to add one more thing, and I hope it's not controversial by any means, but I think a lot of our skepticism, as Errol mentioned, is because we see a lot of flashes of last summer. And I'll tell you what it is. Look, Julian Ward completed the Alexis McAllister signing. He actually came back after he left to wrap up the signing. So really it was something that he finished up. The Szoboszlai signing on deadline day at the last hour tells me very clearly that there's a lot of indecisiveness inside the club. That release clause was there for months at a time. If he was really our target, we would be negotiating that and maybe hitting that clause early enough. But we waited till the very last minute. So it makes me think that there is a lot of indecisiveness of who to move for. And now this indecisiveness has kind of brought us over till August. And that's what happened last summer, isn't it? Like we sat indecisiveness. There was no consensus on a player. And then at the end, we had to choose between Pjanic and Arthur Melo. And we ended up with Melo.
It's yeah, you're spot on. The indecisiveness, we haven't been proactive again. We thought we were going to be proactive, but it looks like we're going to have to be reactive, especially after the Fabinho and Henderson. Evan, how do we react and save this window, in your humble opinion? Is it 2 weeks left, 3 weeks left? Something like that.
I think it's 30 days. If it's September 1st, I think it's 30 days.
So, okay. So we have got a month. Now we also know, realistically, and especially the way Klopp works, even if we sign someone tomorrow, they are very unlikely to play in the first game, possibly 2 games. So knowing that, Evan, and knowing that we have got a month, then I think and I believe we can still save this window. What do you think that we need to do? And I'm going to ask you for 3 personnel, names, positions to save this window, Evan. You need to save this window for Liverpool. I'm putting some responsibility on your young shoulders.
Well, my first sporting director post being at Liverpool to save the window is it's high stress, but I'm a rise to the challenge. Romeo Lavia, I've spoken at great length about him. Bit of a self-proclaimed expert on Romeo Lavia. I think the ceiling is insanely high. I think he's more quote unquote ready than people think. Ready in the sense that he could start at Stamford Bridge. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just mean ready in the sense that he could make the switch to a top 6 possession-based team, which is not obviously what Southampton were last season. So Romeo Lavia is definitely one of those players. It looks like he's going to Leipzig, but Castillo Luqueba from Lyon is a left-sided center back, not amazing in the air, but very good on the ball, very strong in the duel. And I would argue that when you have, statistically speaking, the two most dominant aerial center backs in the Premier League in Khanate and Van Dijk, I checked the numbers, that's what they are. You could maybe get away with having perhaps not the most jaw-dropping aerial force as the third member of the back line. So I do like Lukeba. Unfortunately, Leipzig seems to the name that won't go away in terms of his departure from Lyon this summer. So that would be my choice for left center back. I also like Arthur Tiete. I don't really know how to say his last name. I'm usually great with pronunciations. I'm sorry I let you down. But he's another left-sided center
I
back.
won't know otherwise anyway, so I won't know otherwise. So you've done me.
Okay, good. So he's another left-sided center back from Ligue 1. Very good on the ball. Pretty much similar traits to Lukeba, but a bit better in the air. I like those ideas sort of as a project center back, someone who's probably just more ready than Jarell Quansah, for example, but perhaps not the world-beating force that Van Dijk and Khanate are, in my opinion.
Sorry to just take you back there quick, Evan. Is Lavia worth the price tag, though? Because that seems to be clinical stumbling block. Is he for 50 mil right now? Is it just pay, get your man, and then build the rest that you've just put together?
We have lost the luxury of asking ourselves that question. Would be my reply to that. And let me also say, I've said this multiple times, and I never get tired of saying it. I am very confident that there is not a 50 million pound discrepancy between Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia as players, especially when you consider Romeo Lavia is 2.5 years younger. When you look at the numbers, I mean, Lavia's putting up similar numbers, and he's playing for one of the worst teams in the division last season. Caicedo, respectfully, playing for one of the better teams in the division last season. So that would be my answer to that question, Earl. But I need to give Grizz a third body. And I guess the question, Grizz, is where do you allocate the bodies? Am I doing two midfielders and one defender? Am I doing a fullback, a defender, and a midfielder? Oh, I really don't know.
Take it away, Jürgen.
Okay, so I guess I would probably do another midfielder. I would do two midfielders and a center back. So one of the center backs I've named, and now I have to choose a partner for Romeo Lavia. So if I'm trying to balance out the inexperience, quote unquote, of Lavia for someone more complete, someone more ready, it's so difficult. You've put me on the spot. I guess I would be okay with Liverpool taking a smart punt on Tyler Adams, despite the injury record. Older than Lavia, I think he's about 23, 24. Again, some stunning numbers in the Premier League last season for again one of the worst teams in the division. Stunning World Cup, walked all over England's midfield. I mean, it is what it is. And not to mention tactically flexible, has played quite a few games at right back in his young career as well. Some questions over the injury record, absolutely. And if anybody feels put off by that, they're totally valid in saying so. But with a rumored relegation release clause of around 20 million, you know, Lavia and Adams for 20 million, and then on top of that, Lukeba or Tiete, like I said, that sounds like a nice salvage transfer window that sets us up for the next 5 years.
Winner, chicken dinner. Ash says, sends in a super chat, says, you need the right centre-back cover to cover Ibu, who's missed 37 Premier League games in 2 seasons. Wow, I didn't know that. That is such a worrying stat. A left centre-back to compete with Robertson and 2 DMs. How much will you get, Grizz? Wow, if we need 4, there's absolutely no chance. Moby, how are you saving the transfer window? If, like you and we all think, 3 is needed, or you might think 2 outstanding world-class talents would be enough. Which way do you go about it?
Look, the amount of work being put on the Lavia file is, if it doesn't close, I think it'll be incredibly disappointing.
Yep.
And an utter waste of time, really, and makes us look silly. But yeah,
it wouldn't be the first time.
It won't be the first time, and I think that causes our anxiety level, as Errol mentioned before, to go up, because we've seen this before, and this is typically, and it's a terrible way to run around things. But I expect Lavia to be done. I think we're pretty close to the numbers, and I don't think there's anybody in that race, to be honest. I think Chelsea's too busy on Caicedo and all that. So I think players sold, we're relaxed, we'll get it done. But I really think we need another midfielder. And to me, it makes no sense to go at such lengths to talk to Lilian Thuram about his son, only not to try. So I hope if there's an opportunity, and Nice's sporting director mentioned the other day that if 2 offers come for Todibo and Thuram, they're gone. So you won't break the bank, but I think he's incredible talent. Obviously on our list. Obviously we have spoken to his father many times. It makes sense to get that done. Whether they do it or not remains to be seen. Manu Kone, the other obvious one, he's back from injury next week. As far as their coach Gerard Zorara, he mentioned it's not a serious one.
Oh, I thought it was until September. I read it was
That's
until September.
no, that's you're probably thinking of Hinkapie from Bayer Leverkusen.
I beg
who a
your
lot of
pardon.
people- Yeah,
I beg
yeah.
your
So
pardon.
he's so Manu Kone is back next week. Do we move for him? Because Gladbach has spent a lot of money already that they don't have on signing players,
Yeah.
and they're banking on selling him. I spoke to a Gladbach fan 2 weeks ago, and they said, "Look, the only people who benefits from this late window move for Kone is Liverpool, because they know that Gladbach needs the money and is getting desperate. So you might get a nice little, decent price over there. Can we wait that long? Well, geez, yeah. I think the answer is it would be nice not to wait that long, but maybe we kind of have to. In terms of a center back, look, the options are dwindling. I know there was some interest in Danso, but I mean, he's staying. Van de Beek is gone now to Spurs. Lukeba looks like Red Bull Leipzig bound at some point. It's going to happen. Arthur Thiet, who Evan mentioned, is incredible talent at Rennes. Won't cost us a lot of money. And look, the options are dwindling, But I think if we can't get a center back, which we should have left center back, I wouldn't be surprised if we move for a fullback addition, right? I think that would be your best bet if you don't get the profile you need now. I think this club will sit out, as they have shown in the past they have. Not the smartest thing, but we have to go by history as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've mentioned that a few times as well. The amount of inquiries we're making for fullbacks makes me wonder and ponder if our search is going towards that what you've just mentioned, Moby, as opposed to a centre back, which we know that it was almost sounds like almost Colwell or bust in terms of the centre back scenario, whereas there's a couple of fullback options that we might go towards. Sorry, you was going to say something.
Let me ask you, what do you think of Frimpong from Bayern Leverkusen? He's for sale. Yeah.
See, I don't know what we do then, because what do we do with the Trent scenario and situation then, guys?
Yeah.
If we do that, Frimpong ain't coming to be a utility stroke Europa League player.
I think the assumption, perhaps the assumption is you get Frimpong and then Trent becomes a full-time midfielder, and then Frimpong is doing a bit of that inverted job sometimes. Maybe that would be the thinking. Who knows?
I'm not going to put you on the spot like that, Errol, but I'm going to ask you this question, if that's the case. By the way, guys, a little bit of a forward planning thinking. I know we mentioned Lavia. Moby spoke about it. Evan spoken about it. Everyone's speaking about Lavia. But I've got a small little video coming out that I'm going to premiere in the morning about Romeo Lavia. Keep your eyes, ears peeled. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you subscribe, put your notification bell on so you know when I put out these little surprise videos. Just trying something different. If you like it, you like it. If you don't watch it. I'm still going to do it. Errol, I want to ask you something. If we don't do what Moby and Evan are suggesting, and me as well, and we don't bring in the right personnel or any personnel, I think we'll bring in for sure one. I'm expecting 2 and praying for 3. But if we have a disappointing window again, and all those promises or whatever from the media or relatable journalists, local journalists, so we can't say that they weren't briefed. Punjabi Firmino says, love Klopp, but he needs to call out the owners now, because let's call a spade a spade. The owners couldn't give a shit what fan channels say and Twitter Spaces say and anything else. But they will stand up and take notice if the man himself says something. It's just not in his makeup, is it? but that's the only way anything remotely happens.
I don't believe that's in Klopp's nature.
Mm.
I think he's got too much respect for the enterprise, if that makes sense. He understands the size of this football institution, and he almost understands, oh, not almost, he definitely understands that FSG are the stewards and that they aren't permanent, but they are the ones that are at the head of the stewardship while he's here at the head of the helm. So there is a level of unwavering respect that has to go towards them in his position. I feel like he wears that as if that's an extra layer of honor. Not necessarily honor, but like humility is probably not the right word either, but like it's almost the dignified thing to do. Where, you know, it would all have to come imploding in on him before he was like, you know, blaming them. He likes to be the one that takes the brunt of that responsibility, and you've got to commend him for it. I think the frustration has to be felt amongst the fans, and I think the fans have to be the ones to ultimately voice it. And no, not particularly on Twitter spaces, not particularly on YouTube fan channels, not on watch-alongs, but more than likely it has to be, you know, verbal dissent towards it in crowds. It has to be that visceral feeling that gets people emotional, you know. And again, there's a it's one of them. When nothing's gone wrong, I know we can say the transfer business has gone wrong from the outside looking in, but when nothing's gone wrong to the outcome on the pitch hasn't affected, you're you're not likely gonna get a response from people. If Klopp's teams fail to deliver the results on top of the poor business that's been conducted, that's when you will get the stamping. That's when you'll get the noises. That's when you'll get the chance. And I don't want it to come to that. And that's not because we've been so harmonious and we've got the best fan base and we've got the best. None of that. I just don't think that's conducive to a team of 20, a squad of 20 odd players trying to produce their best football week in, week out, if they've got all of this fractions of disaffected fan bases and, you know, these voices and all these opinions flying about that they see on socials. I don't think that breeds the type of energy that's needed for us to go and achieve what we want to achieve. I think Klopp said it in one of his interviews the other day where he's like, you know, it's our job now with the new lads to start again. We need to start again. We need to how we manage that situation, and it becomes it's difficult when you're up against it and you're fighting against the tide. And if you already feel as though you're fighting a losing battle because people are not really on song or on the same page as you, it becomes very difficult. I don't want us to be apologetic for the owners, but I don't want Klopp to feel as though he has to then become the voice piece for the fans' frustrations. The fans have got their own place to be able to do that. If you want to use Twitter, if you want to use your watch-alongs or whatever platform you've got, do it. But ultimately, we can't expect the manager to do that because the manager's job is to manage those group of players to extract the best 110% out of them for the best part of 8 months. And that's where I just want his focus to be, because anything else to me is a distraction. And maybe I just look at things in mad little ways, but that's how I see it. And I think there's a fan base's job to cheer for the good times, but equally, when shit's not going right, we need to let them know, the higher ups, because they might be the stewards, but we are the lifeblood. My son is going to grow up to be a Liverpool fan, you know, bro. Like, he's a baby, but he'll grow up to be, like, we will pass this shit on. They're not going to pass this on to their kids. They're going to sell it to the next man, to the next billionaire. We are the lifeblood of the club, and that responsibility lies with us. Starts and stops with us as the fans, in whichever way we choose to do it.
Errol, thank you very much for that. We're going to end with this last final super chat. El Tayyib says, have to rate FSG's PR team. Only club that makes promises and don't deliver and actually made fans believe we have no money. Pathetic, sick of them. Look, I didn't want to end on that note. I didn't want to end on that super chat, but it just so happens we did. We're hoping FSG or all the people involved take heed of Moby's advice and Evan's advice and make the necessary amendments to the final few weeks to make this a successful window. El Lad says, what's your expectations for the season? I'll answer this one. I'll save everyone else. My expectations for this season are absolutely dependent on the last 2-3 signings. That's how crucial these last 2-3 possibilities are. Very quickly, I'm not sure if anybody would disagree or agree with that. If you've got an answer, what are your expectations? Really? I mean, I think if we get those 2-3 signings right, I expect us to challenge City, guys. I absolutely do. But that's obviously dependent.
So many moving parts. I mean,
yeah.
As things stand, like, it's hard to imagine a title charge, but 2 to 3 new players of certain quality in the next month, absolutely, opinions could change.
It does change. Let's see what happens. As I said, 3 weeks to go. More focus on the first game of the season, which is Chelsea. In the meantime, we have another training session that will be televised, and we will get a chance to see some youngsters. Hopefully, at least a newcomer in there as well. Fingers crossed. Moby, I need to thank you. Special thank you for coming on, making time. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed your company.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a great chat, and I've never spoken to Errol before, but Errol, pleasure to meet you. Chris, thank you for having me over. A lot of good comments. I don't know how to reply to any of them, but a lot of great comments, a lot of good questions, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to say in the next few days or weeks as we flesh it out. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's about it, really, guys. We'll end on Ahmed saying, Grizz, you're deluded, mate. Of course I am, mate. I'm talking to you guys on here. How deluded can I be? Conroy's joined the building. He says, big up the chat. It's absolutely. And just plenty of lovely comments. Great show, guys, and hope we see more of Moby. Big up, lads. Football chat as usual. Stay top football chat as usual. Thank you very much, guys. This has been post-match carnage, which also involved new signings needed, forwards on fire, and Moby on Andre. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope you guys have liked the stream. Until next time, peace, love, and tranquility.
Good night, folks.